to Orlando, where the Indiana Pacers have lost 5 straight at the Orlando Arena. The Orlando Magic having similar problems winning in Indiana, coming off the loss on Friday night. And that was their 9th straight loss at Market Square. We're set for the introduction of the lineups. Let's join with public address announcer Paul Porter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the beautiful Orlando Arena and Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, featuring the Central Division champion Indiana Pacers and your Atlantic Division champion Orlando Gentlemen, introducing the starting lineup for the Indiana Pacers. And one guard, 6'7" from UCLA, number 31, Reggie Miller. And the other guard, 6'1" from St. John's, number 13, Mark Jackson. At center, 7'4" from Marist, number 45, Rick Smits. And one forward is 6'11" from Clemson, number 32, Dale Davis. And at the other forward, 6'10" from Alabama, number 9, Derek McKee. The head coach of the Pacers is Larry Brown.
Magic. It is their first ever Game 7. If the Pacers win, they'll be the first ABA team to make the NBA Finals. Once again, we have extensive coverage on the sideline. We're joined by both Ahmad Rashad and Jim Gray. Let's start with Ahmad, who checked out the mood in the Orlando Magic locker room.
All right, Marv, nobody seemed to be nervous. They seemed to be very loose and ready to go. But I did talk to Shaquille O'Neal. He said this is one of the longest days in his entire life. He's ready to get this thing on. Now, they had one other visitor to their locker room, and he was the owner of this Orlando Magic team, Rich DeVos. As he was walking around, he was saying to each player, why not us? Why not now? Well, I guess the answer to that question lies with Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Ahmad. Well, one of the answers is that the Indiana Pacers feel exactly the same way. I've spoken to many of the Pacers over the past 24 hours, and they have lost a tremendous amount of respect for the Orlando Magic. They feel that this whole taunting business has been blown out of proportion and is simply Orlando grasping for excuses. Now, Larry Brown told me he feels his team is very nervous, in fact, scared to death. However, he's not concerned because he's quite certain that Orlando feels the same way. Now, Larry had a couple of words for his team, and finally Sam Mitchell, the backup forward, stood up and said, hey, Larry, that's enough. Let's simply go out and get this over with. Mark?
All right, Jim, the officials are Hugh Evans, Mike Mathis, and Jess Kersey. It'll be Shaquille O'Neal jumping against Dale Davis as we get set for game number 7.
And if you are not nervous and do not have butterflies, something is wrong with you. The adrenaline is really pumping, and you cannot wait for that ball to be tossed up to either touch the ball, bang in the body, and get this game started.
Hugh Evans with the basketball. And Horace Grant controls for Orlando. Anthony Hardaway, who did not have a good one on Friday night. Guarded by Mark Jackson. That's been the matchup right throughout. Here is Shaquille O'Neal. His pass intercepted by Dale Davis. And Jackson starts back against Hardaway. Miller off the pick. Did not have the shot. Good reaction from Anderson. Smits angling in. And the Pacers take a 2-0 lead.
Right away, Reggie not forcing anything there, taking his time. And Smits getting excellent position. 2 feet in the paint and working on for that shot.
Nick Anderson not able to hit. Rebound, Shaquille O'Neal. It will count. And the foul.
This is what Shaq did early, hanging around the basket, picking up loose rebounds as he worked hard for that one and drawing a foul in the process.
Foul on Derek McKee, and Shaquille, who has had all kinds of problems at the line with the first of many free throws to come. Shaquille 6 of 12 the other night at Market Square. So the game is tied at 2. McKee. Both clubs coming out in very deliberate fashion. Smits. So Rick Smits has opened up by hitting his first 2, and Indiana leads 4-2.
Well, the Pacers had so much success with their running game in Game 6. They'll take it when it's there. In this one, other than that, they want to make the magic, play some defense, use some pop.
Hardaway for Grant, and drew the foul.
Well, like Shaquille O'Neal, when Rick Smits gets good position in the paint, and he's patient here, caught it once, threw it out, reestablished, and Shaq giving ground as it looked like Shaquille O'Neal trying to be very careful not to pick up any early fouls, as is that man, Rick Smith.
Eric McKee called for his second in a hurry, and he will sit down. Wayne Farrell, who has contributed off the bench, will come on for Derek McKee, who's a very important player for the Pacers, not for his offense. Had a quiet game in Game 6 in Indiana, although his offense not needed in that situation, but has been able to break out on a couple of occasions this series.
Well, they picked up 2 early fouls in Game 6. The Smits and Penny Hardaway battle for that rebound, had to go to the bench. Dwayne Farrell came in and did a nice job.
Now let's see how Larry Brown plays it. Will he sit McKee the rest of the half? Will he go with the same philosophy that he does when Rick Smits gets an early foul trouble? Off the steal, and a foul is called as the Magic were trying to break out of the backcourt.
Well, the Magic have seen this from the Pacers, the aggressive defense, the spontaneous double team as Horace Grant comes over, something he did so well in his Chicago days, and Mark Jackson flat out panicked on that play, threw it away, but a good foul by Farrell to stop the Magic fast break.
Pacers 4 and the Magic 3. 2 minutes gone by. O'Neal with the and Orlando leads by 1. And here at the start, both Smits and O'Neal have been able to get excellent position down low.
Well, and they're both being very careful, Mark, not to pick up any silly pushing foul. And you can see as Rick Smits initially trying to do something, but once Shaq gets the ball, he just kind of backs off as Shaq moves to the lane, which has kind of become his signature move, that other than the slam dunk, that little jump hook in the lane.
Foul was called on Hardaway. Jackson Tried to lay it off. He did. On the deflection, Dale Davis was able to make the play. And the Pacers lead 6-5. The lead for O'Neal, who tried to bang it off Miller, and apparently not able to connect inbounds as both went flying. So it will be Indiana ball.
Well, Shaq is ready to sprint the floor at every opportunity, trying to beat Rick Smits down. He did that, but Reggie Miller helping out the big men. That won't show up in a stat sheet or anything like that, but that's the kind of plays you need from your star player, Reggie Miller.
Rick Smits with a rare miss. He's hit 20 of his last 30 shots the last 3 games. Anderson backs his way and then flipped it out. Hardaway now being played by Farrell. O'Neal spinning and foul. So Smits called for his first.
Well, so far, every time the ball has gone inside the Shaq, no double-team help, and he has been able to out-quick Smits to the middle. This time, I think Rick Smits getting a little bit tired of it as nobody came down, especially when Shaq puts the ball on the floor. That's a good time to come down as Smits is pleading his case with referee Hugh Evans, looking like he's saying, hey, Shaq is dipping that shoulder and knocking me back. But I think Rick is a little bit more frustrated that he's not getting some help from his teammate once Shaq puts the ball on the floor.
Shaquille is now 1 of 2 at the line. Orlando 7. Indiana 6. Some pressure in the backcourt from Hardaway. Now they double. Grant comes over. Farrell. And the pass picked off by Anderson, who was trying to get it to Smits.
And so far, the pressure defense by the Magic, and in particular Horace Grant, very effective along with his crowd.
Anderson for 3. Anderson from downtown to open up a 10-6 advantage. No question about the change in philosophy on the part of Orlando here at the start, putting some pressure on the ball as Miller hits from downtown. Reggie Miller, who had the sensational opening quarter in game number 6, connecting with the three-pointer. 10-9. The Magic leading by 1.
I think the Magic did not want to make the same mistake that they did in Game 6 coming out. Penny Hardaway raises up from deep. The mistake they made in Game 6, they let the Indiana Pacers dictate the tempo. This time they've come out and dictated it with their defense as Horace Grant does it so well, gambling off his man.
4-point Orlando lead. Scott knocked it away, recovered by Jackson, finding Farrell for 3. And a pushing foul, or did it go over the top? Apparently the ball over the top of the glass, so it goes back to the Magic.
Penny Hardaway with a little crossover move and a step back as Mark Jackson is playing way off him, not expecting any kind of shot, as Penny Hardaway glad to get that one to fall down to get off to a good start.
Hardaway trying to recapture the touch from three-point land, only 3 of 10. The other that went in. Horace Grant trying to lead Shaquille O'Neal. That was intended as a lead pass.
And Shaq may have touched that ball over the cylinder. At least Rick Smits thought he did. Nevertheless, that's the second time in this series the Magic have gotten one of those kind of field goals.
Shot clock at 4. Miller. Rebounded by O'Neal. And Shaquille has come out in very aggressive fashion as he did in Game 5. Grant, good run here by the Magic. They now lead 17-9. And the Pacers want to talk it over. 6:33 to go in this first quarter. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Rick Smits and Dale Davis caught in a switch here as Horace Grant lobs it up towards the basket in his attempt for the alley-oop to Shaq, and it's oops. As the question is, did Shaq touch the ball? I don't think so.
And with the timeout called by Indiana, Shaquille O'Neal appealing to the crowd. Now check out the message board. He made the statement, I want it so loud that we can't even hear ourselves call the plays. And Shaquille, who will get a rest right here, I'm sure a short rest, has to be satisfied with the noise or the decibel level of the crowd here in Orlando. 6.5 left, first quarter. Magic up 17-9. A 12-3 run the last 3.5 minutes. Again, a steal. Grant so aggressive defensively, but lost it. Undecided on the drive, and back come the Pacers. Pharrell for Dale Davis.
Dale Davis.
Well, it looked like Horace Grant had Mark Jackson at his mercy, but a terrific fake by Jackson to fool Horace Grant and force the turnover.
Grant on the rebound. Here's Scott for three. And Dale Davis with the box out. Jeff Turner has come on, replacing Shaquille O'Neal. Miller, guarded by Anderson, away from the ball. Turner and Smits got entangled on the foul on Turner.
Horace Grant had a 2-on-1 situation here, decided to go all his way. Mark Jackson made Horace misstep, and he lost his footing momentarily. And what so often happens when you miss an opportunity for an easy one at one end, it turns into this kind of chance for the Indiana Pacers as they do a good job of capitalizing.
Antonio Davis has come on for the first time. Rick Smits sitting down. Dale Davis posting up on Jeff Turner. And a foul. Hugh Evans, the outside official, with the call on Horace Grant. For Grant, his first.
Talking with Larry Brown yesterday about the importance of Dale Davis when he is involved, especially on the boards at both backcourts, getting about 8, 9, 10 rebounds a game, and then if he can chip in with about 8 or 9 points, generally the Indiana Pacers are at their best. Just that little extra from their big man, and he plays outstanding defense on the opponent's big forward.
Dale Davis only a 53% free throw shooter. Orlando hit 6 straight shots. They had a 12-3 run. But Indiana has brought it back within 5. It's the Magic 17 and the Pacers 12 with 5:20 to go in this first quarter. Orlando will maintain possession. So it's Turner now up front with Grant and Scott. Hardaway and Anderson at the guards. Hardaway, played by Antonio Davis, able to slice his way through.
Terrific read by Hardaway on the switch by Jackson and Antonio Davis, sensing that it was going to be a post-up play, and it was. Hardaway read it, stepped out, and took the big man, Antonio Davis, to the hole.
Fast start for Penny Hardaway, and it's Orlando by 7. Pharrell trying to lead Antonio Davis, broken up, last touched by Jeff Turner with 5 on the shot clock.
Brian Hill yelling out red, which is a signal to his team that the shot clock is down 5 or under to be alert here.
Down to 3, down to 1, Jackson. And the rebound handled by Grant. Hardaway was hanging.
On the penetration by Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller should have protected the backboard. He pointed for somebody else to do it. It was his responsibility.
21-12, Orlando. Miller. And Scott able to make the play. Indiana getting back. Scott pulls up for the 3. The Magic, 24. The Pacers, 12. Similar to the scenario in Indianapolis on Friday, they have been on their feet cheering right throughout. Mark Jackson with a nice move for his first field goal. Orlando leads by 10 points.
Well, the Magic have been feeding off the enthusiasm of this crowd, in particular at the defensive end. If they came out with a furious rush, Horace Grant putting pressure on the ball, and it looked to rattle the Pacers.
Hardaway called for that foul, his second.
Penny trying to get position there, and then Dwayne Pharrell going around the why Penny can't believe that call. He may have been caught on that first little hook with the left arm, but then as he started to ride out, it looked like no foul there, but Penny was caught.
Well, Shaquille O'Neal is back on the floor. Brian Shaw, who had the terrific Game 5 here in Orlando, has come on for Hardaway. Reggie Miller with a beautiful shot and looking for the foul. Did not get the call. 24-16. Shaw, three-pointer for Brian Shaw, who has rediscovered the touch from downtown.
Well, he certainly had it in Game 5 as he played a major role, scoring 15 points, even threw a lucky three in, but he looked like he just decided, I'm going to be aggressive when I get in there and shoot every open shot.
Antonio Davis. Nice look from Dwayne Farrell. Orlando leads 27-18. Orlando has come out and hit 10 of 13 from the field. Indiana, 8 of 13. Not bad. Terrific shooting by both teams with just under 3 minutes to go in this opening quarter. So the matchup picks up between Smits back on the floor along with O'Neal, and a 3-second violation call. Now a timeout is taken.
Well, Penny Hardaway stepping out on that side out-of-bounds play on the switch, and Antonio Davis in a world of trouble there, even though he gave ground. Penny with that quickness just feeding him to the basket. And then on the release by Penny Hardaway after the drive by Mark Jackson, nobody home in the backcourt.
Ahmad Rashad back at the O-Arena here in Orlando, and we have a visitor here, Scottie Pippen. Now, Scottie, I know that this is very uncomfortable for you to be at a game during this time of the season. You're normally playing.
Well, I told Horst the other night I'll come down and turn him on if it's a Game 7 in the series and bring him some luck. So I'm hoping they are able to play all today.
Now, what is it about this Orlando team that impressed you when they got by you guys in the playoffs?
Well, they've shown they're a very porous team. I think a lot of people counted them out and saying they're an inexperienced team. And I think through the Chicago series, they really showed me they were very porous when we got them down.
You had an interesting comment about the pace of this game, saying that you didn't think it was in Orlando's favor at this point.
Well, I don't think so, really, because even the energy they've exerted so far, they haven't been able to build a big enough lead. At least you expect at least a 12-point lead by now.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scottie.
Sure.
Thanks for joining me. Back to you, Mark.
All right, Ahmad, and Horace Grant, his buddy from Chicago, looking pumped up here in the first quarter. Brian Shaw called on that foul. Scottie Pippen can certainly relate to big games and seventh and decisive games of the series. Had a triple-double in Game 7 against the Knicks back in '92. 2:20 left in this first quarter. Here's Smits, Rick Smits, continuing his magnificent shooting. 3 of 4 here in the first quarter. He has 6 points. The Magic up 27-20.
Well, Rick has been so effective with once he gets the ball, doesn't like his position, throws it back out, and then reestablishes, and then Shaq is giving him that position.
Here's Shaw for 3. Orlando now 4 of 7 from downtown. Jackson was looking for Antonio Davis. Smits going to the jump hook. And Shaw on the ball. Good play by Smits to break up the entry pass with a minute 28 to go in this first quarter. Let's check in with Jim Gray over at the Indiana bench.
All right, thank you, Marv. Larry Brown, in the last time out, told his guys you're playing way too cautious. You have to get after it. You can't wait for the game to come to you. If we're going to win this thing, we have to get it and take it to them. Marv?
All right, Jim, yes, we made that comment earlier. They look to be very deliberate at the start.
Oh, they have got hit with a haymaker here. Looks to me, Mark, we've got a storm brewing outside. I think the Pacers are trying to weather the storm in this building here, just trying to keep their head above water as Smith and Shaquille battling for position. And Shaq covering up Smith, keeping him on his back, as now Rick has picked up 2. And that generally means, at least in these playoffs, that he is finished for the half. Now, time and score in this first half will certainly dictate what Larry Brown does, but he's on his way to the bench right now.
Shaquille O'Neal, 2 of 4 at the line. And yes, Rick Smits will depart. Discussing matters with Mike Mathis. Dale Davis returning 2 apiece on Smits and McKee, while the Magic with Hardaway sitting it out after picking up his second. Hill missing on both. 7-point Magic lead. We come up on 1 minute remaining in this first quarter. Miller picked up on the switch by Grant. Antonio Davis rebounded by Farrell and lost it.
All set up by the defense of Horace Grant. He is just free and loose out there. Stepped out on the switch to Miller to stop the play.
Nice move by Scott for the shot, but could not hit. Workman for Farrell, and a block is called on Grant. The foul on Grant, his second.
Number 54, Horace Grant.
Well, one of the rare fast break opportunities for the Indiana Pacers. And it's a case there. I think Mike Mathis didn't think Horace Grant was there in time, or he thought he was too far underneath the basket. Appeared to be moving just slightly, and a good call.
Wayne Farrell, a 75% free throw shooter during the season. Now Jeff Turner comes on for Horace Grant. Byron Scott will give Reggie Miller a rest. Reggie sits down 2 of 4 from the floor, 5 points.
We pointed out how important for Reggie to get involved in the other areas, looking to drive the ball, draw fouls, make some plays for other people, defense and rebounding. He never really could get into that kind of flow in his first quarter, as the defense of Orlando has primarily ruled this first quarter, although the Pacers have to be happy being only down 5 at this point.
10-3 run by the Pacers. Anderson for 3. And handled by Scott on the back tap. Here's Turner. Able to pull up for the jumper. Shaw with the tip. And Farrell gets it to Scott. Down to 15 seconds remaining in this first quarter. Orlando has led by as many as 12. It's now a 5-point lead. Down to 5 seconds. Workman checking at the bench. Down to 3. Here's Dale Davis. Dale Davis cuts it to a 3-point lead. Good finish to the quarter by the Pacers.
At the end of the first quarter.
Indiana finishes with a 12-3 run. Shaquille O'Neal having problems at the foul line once again. 6 points for Shaq in the first quarter. Orlando missed its last 5 shots after starting 10 of 13 from the field. So after 1, it's the Magic by 3. Well, key players on both teams picking up 2 fouls in the first quarter. 2 apiece on Smits, McKee, Grant, and Hardaway. Rick Smits has been in foul difficulty right throughout the playoffs. We talked with Rick about his philosophy concerning the officiating.
I found that it's probably better not to be cautious and just play aggressive, because that was game, I think it was game 4. Or no, it was game 5 in Orlando that I tried not to foul deliberately, and I still picked up some fouls that, you know, I might as well just try to stop the guy and pick up a foul aggressively than, you know, trying to get away from the guy and pick up, you know, just a little touch foul.
Well, the growth in his game has been dramatic over the last couple of years, in particular at the offensive end. And for Rick to move up into that top tier, he's going to have to improve in the rebounding area. He's got to average at least 10 or 11 rebounds. And even though Larry Brown had him lose 20 pounds when he became the coach of the Pacers, it was important for his agility and mobility. But when you're playing against big people like Shaquille O'Neal, you could use a little extra muscle.
Indiana with a 12-3 run the last 4 minutes of the first quarter. That was right after Penny Hardaway picked up his second foul. Hardaway is back on the floor as this second quarter gets started. Antonio Davis for Hayward Workman. Davis going against Shaquille O'Neal, and a foul is called.
Well, Antonio Davis trying to take a page out of the Rick Smits book by getting it, throwing out, and then getting that position again. And I don't care how big and strong you are, and Shaq is certainly that. If you keep letting a man 6'10", 6'11", who's got some game inside, get that kind of position, you're either going to score or draw a foul, because Antonio Davis knows what to do when he gets the ball inside.
And that was number 1 on Shaquille O'Neal. Antonio Davis, in his second NBA season out of Texas El Paso, a second-round pick of the Pacers back in 1990, but opted to play in Europe for 3 years. Strong rookie season a year ago, averaged 8 points. Pacers' second leading rebounder, and he's followed up, despite injuries this year, with a very solid performance. Anderson giving it over to Anthony Bowie, who just checked in. Bowie coming off a hot shooting performance in the blowout in Indiana. Workman going all the way, and a foul is called. What a move by Hayward Workman. So Workman to the line, fouled by Anderson.
This was all set up by a half-court zone trap by the Pacers, something they have not shown too much of there. They've done some little run and jump stuff, doubling the ball way out near midcourt. This actually looked like a 1-3-1, got the miss from Anthony Bowie and turned into a fast break opportunity. So right now it looks like the Pacers have the Magic guessing a little bit these last few minutes.
And Indiana has tied the game at 27. Orlando led by as many as 12. It's been a 15-3 run by the Pacers, and they now lead. Indiana 28, Orlando 27. Orlando has missed its last 6 shots. Anderson backing his way. Turner for 3. And rebounded by Dale Davis. Scott for Farrell. And it's a leg block called on Anderson, a new 24 for the Pacers.
And keep in mind, the Pacers are doing this without Rick Smits, who went out with 1:21 to go in the first quarter with his second personal foul, and Reggie Miller went out. So doing it with defense right now, as the Magic playing into their hands a little bit, settling for the first open jump shot that comes along instead of being a little more patient, wait, punch it into Shaquille O'Neal, as they did in the early part of this game, and either Shaq making his strong move on Antonio Davis or drawing the double team and then getting a shot in rhythm on the perimeter.
And the crowd trying to get back into it. It has been dead during the course of this Indiana run. Davis could not hit. Antonio Davis got position. The Magic missing on their last 7 field goal attempts, trailing by 1. Here's the double on O'Neal. Shaquille giving Orlando a 29-28 lead.
Well, the double team was coming from a big man, Dale Davis, to help out Antonio. Shaq saw it, spun away from it with a nice touch.
8 points for Shaquille O'Neal. 2 minutes gone by in the second quarter. Marv Albert, Matt Dukas, Ahmad Rashad, and Jim Gray from the Orlando Arena. Dale Davis. And back comes Anthony Hardaway. Nick Anderson changed his mind. Pass intended for Anthony Bowie. Byron Scott for Hayward Workman, and they'll regroup.
Shaq and Dale Davis were waiting in the backcourt, anticipating some kind of fast break or quick shot, looking for a little breather.
Offensive foul called on Farrell. Timeout is taken with 9.5 to go in this first half. It's the Magic by 1.
After not going to Shaq on a few trips, finally the Magic get patient. Double team is going to come from Dale Davis. Shaq sees he's going to spin this way. Antonio Davis, knowing that double, should force Shaq to the middle where he has that double team help. But Shaq out-quicked him. There it is once again as Shaq got into the air with no challenge on the shot.
And Derek McKee is checking back in. Correction on that last call. It was Jeff Turner called for the foul, not Dwayne Farrell. So it is Indiana ball. McKee up front with Dale Davis and Antonio Davis. Byron Scott, Haywood Workman at the guard. Workman going at Hardaway, trying to pick up a third on Hardaway. Workman playing it on the deflection. Haywood Workman. 4 points for Workman. And the Pacers lead by 1.
And after Haywood made that jump shot, Penny turned around and stared at him as if to say, what are you doing taking that jump shot?
Shaquille O'Neal getting position, avoiding the double team. It will count. And the foul.
Well, Haywood Workman thinking about taking Penny to the basket to try to draw that third foul. Deflection by Bowie right off the knee, back to Byron Scott. And then Shaquille on a post-up as the Pacers have been a little bit tentative and unsure with their double teams, and Shaq is taking advantage of it by getting into his shot very quickly before the double team can come.
3-point play for Shaquille O'Neal, who was fouled by Haywood Workman, who's trying to help out. And the Magic leading 32-30. Workman, very offensive-minded. Now, there are times that Larry Brown would prefer that Haywood not look for the shot that frequently, but in this case, in that he's going up against Hardaway, I don't think he minds at all. Hardaway with the left hand. Orlando 34, Indiana 32.
And that was a back-at-you play with Hardaway going against Workman. Actually, Hardaway is going down to double team, and Workman doing the right thing when he gets the ball, driving to the basket.
No basket. No basket.
And a reach-in foul called as Workman made his move, and it is on Hardaway.
Well, when that ball was thrown back out to Workman, not even looking at jump shot, there have been driving lanes in this situation as Penny Hardaway and Workman starting to get into a little bit of taunting as they have been talking about what they're doing. And this, Penny Hardaway forgot about everything else here. This was right back at you, Mr. Workman.
But Hardaway now sitting down after picking up his third, so a little chatter on the floor between Workman and Hardaway. McKee, rebounded by Bowie, hit the deck. And called for the timeout. Greg Kite, who had just checked in, tried to tie him up, but a 20-second timeout was called. 4 minutes gone by in the second, and it's Orlando by 2. Recapping the series. The Magic winning on their home court, games 1 and 2, as Shaquille O'Neal was unstoppable at that point. Game 3, the Pacers at Market Square come back with a victory led by Derek McKee, who broke out with 22. Game 4, the classic finish capped off by the Rick Smith's game-winning shot at the buzzer that tied the series at 2. Game 5 back here in Orlando, won by the Magic as Shaquille came out very angry in dominating fashion. In Game 6 in Indiana on Friday night, the blowout sparked by the shooting of Reggie Miller. Indiana led by as many as 35 points in that game. The first blowout of a series that has featured tight games. In the previous 5 games, neither the Pacers nor the Magic had won a game by more than 5 points, and 3 of those games decided in the final minute. Ryan Shaw back on the floor, replacing Anthony Hardaway. Dennis Scott trying to force it to Shaquille O'Neal. We've seen that on a number of occasions by the Magic.
Well, those passes become extremely dangerous when you leave your feet and not really sure what you're going to do with the ball, instead of planning and then making your decision.
Larry Brown going with Greg Kite early, as he did several games back. Derek McKee with the putback. And the game is tied at 34.
Well, when Hardaway went to the bench with 2 personal fouls, that's when Indiana went on their 12-3 run at the end of the first quarter. We'll keep an eye on it now as Hardaway, a very important figure for the Orlando Magic. Here's one of those ill-advised shots by Workman, not quite patient enough, but Shaquille O'Neal, in an attempt to block it, just kept going, and that left the Magic vulnerable on the boards, and Derek McKee with a nice cleanup.
Greg Kite called for the foul. Once again, the Indiana bench, as they did in Game 6, done the job. They've outscored the Orlando bench 12-3. Shaquille O'Neal with 13. And the Magic leading 36-34. Who just returned. That's a 3 for Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, the one Indiana player that the Orlando Magic players were talking about in terms of the taunting and some of the gyrations. They were very upset with Mark Jackson, but the Indiana players, as we heard earlier, saying that, well, Orlando was grasping for something to get hold of coming off the blowout on Friday.
And they may well be, but you have to take advantage of every opportunity.
Number 54, Greg Kite. His second, third team.
Well, Matt, looks to be some detailed scouting being done by, as a matter of fact, Joe Ash, a scout for the Houston Rockets, checking out these two clubs. The Rockets training these days in Galveston, Texas, and just waiting in the wings. They will travel tomorrow. And on the subject of the Houston Rockets, on the Prudential Halftime Report, Bob Costas will be chatting with Robert Horry, one of the heroes of the seventh final game win over the San Antonio Spurs. That was the first miss by Shaquille O'Neal. He hit his previous 5 shots. Pacers lead 37-36. Indiana now with Sam Mitchell joining Fred Kite, Derek McKee up front. Reggie Miller is back. He's in the backcourt with Mark Jackson. Mitchell with the shot. And Shaw on the rebound. Brian Shaw getting the playing time with Anthony Hardaway picking up 3 fouls in this first half. Anthony Bowie backing. And try to shoot. Whatever. It worked. Shaquille with 15.
I'm not sure either, Mark. And Sam Mitchell isn't quite sure what happened there. He would just want to get his head out from underneath that basket, or he would have gotten knocked out.
Well, Anthony Bowie will claim it was a pass because he'll pick up the assist. Here's Mitchell with a strong move and foul. And Bowie very quick to raise his hand.
32, Shaquille O'Neal.
It is called on Shaquille.
His second penalty situation.
Well, here's that looping shot pass, and you're right, Mark. An assist all the way for Anthony Bowie, and Sam Mitchell was trying to keep his body on Shaq. No way could the 6'7" Mitchell do anything about it.
Orlando leads by 1, 38-37.
Hard drive by Sam Mitchell, as actually Anthony Bowie got a piece of the ball up top, and evidently Shaquille O'Neal came across his arm, and right away all the Magic players very aware that anytime a whistle around the basket, they're all going to raise their hands trying to protect Shaq.
Well, Shaquille O'Neal has accounted for 9 of Orlando's 11 points in the second quarter. He has 15 in all. The game is tied at 38. In the early going, Orlando led by as many as 12. O'Neal now guarded by Antonio Davis with some help from Mark Jackson. Off the spin. Yes. 17 for O'Neal. The Magic leading by 2.
Now let's see if the Pacers go to Antonio Davis now to try to possibly pick up that third. They won't get the chance, as it appears that Jeff Turner is coming in, no doubt, for Shaq.
His first penalty situation in effect.
There's Shaq, and the double team will come off the left corner as Derek McKee was there, but he has 2 personal fouls and was careful not to try to do anything with that shot, figuring he'll be happy to give Shaq all those jump shots that he wants, although so far Shaq's 7 for 8.
Bowie called on the foul. Orlando over the limit, and Mark Jackson to the line for the first time. The pattern has continued here at home. Shaquille O'Neal has been able to have his way against the Pacers. He's averaged better than 35 per game here in Orlando. Well, on the road, certainly a different story. Jackson connecting now 1 of 2, and it's Orlando by 1.
And Larry Brown up off the Pacer bench, putting 2 fists up in the air, some kind of half-court trap.
Dennis Scott posting up on Reggie Miller. Illegal defense called for the first time. that's the warning on Indiana, so Orlando will get a new 24.
And there's Larry saying, hey, I gave the signal, you're supposed to go double team, but all kinds of confusion out on the floor for the Pacers on that sequence.
Indiana Pacers have lost 5 straight games here in Orlando. Grant. Morris not able to knock down the outside shot consistently in the series.
Magic trying to make Reggie Miller work on defense by posting up Dennis Scott. They'll do it occasionally.
McKee for Jackson. Three-pointer. Handled by Shaw. Shaw getting the pick from Scott.
And the switch.
Now Scott posting up. Shot clock at 5. Turner for 3. Well, Jeff Turner had the hot hand earlier this series. Hits from downtown to give Orlando a 43-39 lead, and Indiana calls for time.
Here's what's coming up on the Prudential Halftime Report. We'll be joined live by Rockets forward Robert Horry, a big contributor in the conference finals win against the Spurs. He hit the three-pointer that won Game 1 and also the three that put Game 6 on ice. We'll also hear from Julius Erving and Peter Bessie on tonight's Game 7 in Orlando. The Magic leading it now by 4 as we head back down there to rejoin Marv, Matt, Ahmad, and Jim.
All right, Bob, and back in Orlando, a 4-point Magic lead. There is a close personal friend of Bob Costas, Hulk Hogan, on hand. Actually, there is an association these days between Hulk Hogan and Shaquille O'Neal, who, after having some difficulties during the Chicago series at the post-game news conference, said, "I need the Hulkster." And in dramatic fashion, Hulk showed up, and here he is tonight.
He asked for him, he got him,
yes.
And the Hulkster will take the free ticket anytime.
Yes, he will. 3.5 remaining in this first half. And the Magic up by 4 points. Sam Mitchell on the drive. Saw the opening, took advantage.
Well, the Pacers have really tuned in the way that the Magic are double teaming now. They are ready on the perimeter to catch, move the ball, or drive it. That was a good take to the basket. And that time I was taking them through to try to figure out what to do with the Dennis Scott post-up. They're getting hurt by it.
Anderson going to his left. Nicely done by Nick Anderson, who has 5 points. 45-41 Orlando. Reggie Miller's been very quiet this first half. Grant breaks it up, and here's it from the crowd.
Well, this comes as a result of another post-up by Dennis Scott, a double team, and you swing it around to the other side, and you catch that defense off balance and in rotation. There will be driving lanes, and Dennis Scott is not known at all as a post-up player. He can do it by backing in on people, but they're treating him as if he were Shaquille Scott.
Yeah, Davis fumbled it, deflected away. The crowd wanted a violation call. Antonio Davis able to rescue. Byron Scott to the crossover. And then taken by Horace Grant. 2:25 left in the half. 4-point Orlando lead. In the post-up move by Scott going at Jackson. Won't count. Foul before the shot.
Well, the Pacers have gone small now with 3 guards, Byron Scott, Reggie Miller, and Jackson, hoping to maybe get a little quicker in these rotations, and the Pacers can take advantage of the fact that Shaquille O'Neal is on the bench right now with 2 personal fouls.
Foul on Jackson, involved with Scott. Rick Smits has sat for a good portion of this first half after picking up his second foul. On the turnover, here's Miller.
Reggie Miller.
So Reggie Miller with only his 3rd field goal. He has 7 points and brings Indiana within 2.
And the reason Reggie has been quiet is not enough of those fast break chances.
Oh, nice move by Shaw coming right back. The Magic leading 47-43. Miller from way downtown. Ryan Shaw, played by Mark Jackson. Minute and a half left. First half. Nick Anderson. Picked up by Antonio Davis on a double team. Jeff Turner for three. Yes. Oh, he's hit two straight from downtown.
Well, Larry Brown said in the early part of this series, he is worried more about the post-up of the Magic guard because it's been more effective, and we're seeing it here in the closing seconds and minutes of this second quarter.
Orlando leads by 7. Scott, Byron Scott, able to backpedal off the dribble and then drill it. 50-45, Orlando. We're just under 1 minute left. First half, 7th and final game of the Eastern Conference Final, with the winner going on to the NBA Finals to face the Houston Rockets. Anderson made the recovery and lost the dribble momentarily.
Another reason why the Magic are getting these good post-up chances is not enough pressure on the ball on the perimeter.
Orlando by 7. They are on their feet here at the arena. Miller stepping back to fire way off. Handled by Turner as Reggie hears it from the crowd.
Not a good shot. Of course, Reggie Miller is capable of making tough shots. Not the time for that. They need to set some screens for him in half-court play.
Orlando has hit its last 5 shots, working the clock down. 10 seconds remaining of the half. Shaw off the dribble. Rebounded by Jackson. Final seconds of the half. And Jackson couldn't get out of the backcourt. That won't count. Went in but will not count. So Orlando finishing with a rush. They led by as many as 12 early. Indiana with a good run. And Orlando sparked by 2 3-pointers from Jeff Turner. Walking off the floor here at the half with a 7-point lead. An outstanding first half for Shaquille O'Neal, leading the way with 17. Bob coming up with the Prudential halftime report right after this.
This is the Prudential halftime report, brought to you by the Prudential. Peace of mind. It comes with every piece of the rock.
Orlando goes out to a 12-point lead. Indiana weathers the storm, gets back close, in fact takes a brief lead of their own, and then the Magic opens it up a little bit just before halftime to lead. 52-45, Shaq with 17 points to lead everybody in the first half. Balanced scoring for the Pacers. 10 have scored. Bob Costas, Julius Erving, Peter Vesey. Doctor, start us off here.
Well, there's no repeat of the blowout, neither way. I think, Orlando came up with a different strategy. They tried to put some full-court pressure on Indiana after makes. I think they were concerned about getting the ball out of Mark Jackson's hands, probably trying to make somebody else start the offense, Reggie Miller. I think one of the other things, that happened was when Penny Hardaway got 2 fouls, they had to abandon that strategy. It allowed Indiana to get back in the game, and the Orlando Magic didn't seem like they had anybody who was going to step up. And then you get Shaquille shooting shots that we've never seen him make before. I mean, he's doing an excellent job of shot making in that second quarter. And, that's what's made it a close game right now.
Shaq has shot 7 of 8, by the way. Go ahead,
17 points for Shaq, but Larry Brown's Pacers not doing badly, not bad for a guy who picked the Bulls to win it all, Larry Brown. Kept Smits on the bench for most of that second quarter with 2 fouls, so he's got an edge going there. The bench was evened up this game from last game. Last game was 17-0 at the half. This time it's 17-11. The key, though, is keep making Shaq work hard for his shots. I think the Pacers will win this game if he keeps taking those jumpers. And let's not forget Reggie Miller, 7 points. We know he's got at least 1 great quarter in him every game, sometimes more.
Okay, let's turn away from basketball very briefly. It was a full day of action at the French Open in and around the rain. Several upsets, but the 2 #1 seeds advanced. For the men, Andre Agassi was a straight-set winner, as was Thomas Muster and 2-time defending champion Sergi Bruguera. Among those on the losing end were 3rd seed Boris Becker and number 13 Jim Courier. On the women's side, Sanchez Vicario, Groff and Martinez all won, but Mary Pierce and Lindsay Davenport were fourth-round losers. Our coverage of the French Open continues next Friday, 10 a.m. in the East, 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Don't ask me how that works, with the men's semifinals. In golf, the U.S. Open played this year at Shinnecock Hills on Long Island is just 11 days away, so Greg Norman has to be feeling good after winning the Memorial earlier today. Norman has always pointed toward the U.S. Open and never won it. He fired a final round 66 in winning his first tour event in more than a year. Coming up, we'll be joined live by the Rockets' Robert Horry, a clutch player for them in this year's playoffs, and we'll hear from Robert after a message from Prudential and a word from the NBA. The Houston Rockets are in the NBA Finals, and certainly there are many reasons, chief among them the play of Hakeem Olajuwon. But third-year forward Robert Horry has emerged as a big player for Houston. The 6'10" Horry was a center at Alabama, spent a lot of time playing with his back to the basket, and thus developed a nice inside game. But since getting to the NBA, his game has changed quite a bit, and he's stepping out to hit the threes. And Robert will join us now from Houston right after we finish with this tape. And there is Robert Horry, who's been kind enough to dress up for the interview, looking very sharp in the shirt and tie. You almost doubled the number of three-point attempts from last year to this. I'm just talking about regular season. In the playoffs, they're up even more. So you're a guy who really has been helped by that line being moved in, right?
Yeah, it helped an awful lot. It's one of those things where we were kind of doubting it when we first came in, because we said, they moving it in too close, it's going to be too easy, everybody's going to be making them. So now it's kind of helping us in a sense, because I'm able to make more than I was able to make last year. And I just got to thank Dream and Clyde and other players for just having the confidence in me to kick it out to me and let me shoot it.
You made 6 three-pointers in Game 6, including the one that really iced the game with just under 2 minutes to play. You made the big basket. It wasn't a three, but a big basket in the last minute of Game 1 that set you out on the right foot against San Antonio. Apparently, you're cool in these pressure situations.
Yeah, that's something that I think the whole team is cool in pressure situations. It's funny that a lot of people say, well, how do y'all know who's going to step up in certain times? You really don't. Everybody just has that confidence in themselves to make big shots from winning a championship. When you win a championship, that gives everybody a chance to be a great player and come up and step up as a player, and gives everybody that confidence.
You know, it's almost a cliche in sports, but I would have to guess that there's truth in it this time, that you guys have confidence that is just sky high, not so much because you're the defending champions, but because you've escaped from so many situations when you've been down in series against Utah, against Phoenix, and in every case you have not had the home court advantage. In every case you've been the underdog, and you did it last year and again this year.
Yeah, the confidence is soaring sky high. I think it's up there by the Empire State Building or something. Everybody has that confidence in themselves, and everybody's going out playing well. You know, when everybody's playing well and have that confidence, you have the confidence in yourselves and the other players on the court. You know, sometimes you can go out there and you look at the other guy and say, well, I ain't gonna throw it to him this time because he's missing shots. But even though if a guy's missing shots, we still kick him the ball and say, make the shot, because we have the confidence in each other and within ourselves.
Let's talk about 2 trades. One that didn't happen and one that did. 16 months ago, there was a deal completed that would have sent you and Matt Bullard from Houston to Detroit for Sean Elliott. Then Elliott failed the physical, was sent back. Eventually, he winds up with San Antonio. You stay and play on a championship team, and now a team that has a chance to defend. Pretty good non-deal.
It's a great non-deal. I think that trade helped me out more than it helped anybody out. And before the trade happened, I was one of those guys who was reluctant to shoot the ball. I was so happy to be on a team that I wanted to go to. I was just trying to get the ball to Otis and Dream and just try to help them out as much as I could. And I was taken away from my game. And when I got traded, I came back with a sort of attitude of saying, just shoot the ball. What they going to do, trade it? Because they traded me once, so what they going to do, trade me again?
Well, speaking of Otis Thorpe, whom you mentioned, that's the deal that was made in the middle of this season. And it was a pretty bold move for a defending champion to shake up the team chemistry that way and trade a starter and bring in Clyde Drexler. A lot of people in the press and some members of the Rockets squad questioned that move, and you were among the early doubters, but no one can say it hasn't worked out now.
Yeah, I was one of the first persons to say this trade it stinks, but because I was looking at the teams that when you look at a basketball team, you look at a team, you got the power forward, which we had in Otis, 2 guard and Vernon, and the center and Dream, and that seemed like that was like the nucleus of our team. And I said, now they messing with our nucleus. So I said, when Clyde gets here, where is he going to play? He's going to play at the 3 or he's going to play at the 2. It's just going to mess up our chemistry, but luckily it didn't mess up our chemistry. We've been playing really, really well together.
And lastly here, have even you and the other Rockets gained a new appreciation for Hakeem Olajuwon, the way he has excelled in these playoffs? Have you ever seen a stretch, regular season or postseason, where he's played this well?
No, he's playing phenomenal, you know. I think they said it loud after the game in San Antonio. I think there should be another vote for the MVP. He's been playing phenomenal. You know, it's one of the things that I always admired him. He's such a great player. He goes about it and handles himself like a true businessman, like this league is his business. And he goes out every night and plays hard, regardless of what the outcome is. If we down 20, he's still playing hard. And that's just the thing about Dream. You look over here and see him playing hard, and knowing this guy with all this talent is still playing hard, you're going to play hard just so you can keep up with him.
Robert, thanks a lot for joining us. Congratulations on your success to this point. We'll look for you Wednesday in either Orlando or Indiana.
No, thanks for having me.
Okay, Robert Horry out of Alabama, now with the Houston Rockets. And, of course, we will have Robert Horry and the Rockets in Game 1 of the Finals on Wednesday night starting at 9 Eastern Time. The first 2 games of the series will be in either Orlando or Indiana. Then it will shift to Houston for Games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. Halftime in Orlando now. Magic leading the Pacers by 7. We'll go back to the O-Arena for the second half after these messages from your local station.
This has been the Prudential Halftime Report, brought to you by the Prudential. Peace of mind. It comes with every piece of the rock.
We welcome you back to the Orlando Arena. The Magic with a 7-point lead at halftime. Marv Albert along with Matt Kukas at a critical point of the game. Shaquille O'Neal hit with a second foul, yet at that point, Orlando able to change up and went through a very good run despite the fact that Shaquille went to the bench.
Well, at 5:21, Shaq went down to the bench, and Magic leading by 1, 38-37, but they built that lead by abusing the post defense of the Indiana Pacers, primarily with their guards, Dennis Scott and Nick Anderson. And Reggie working hard on Nick, but the good little lob pass, and then a double comes, but not an effective one. As Nick spreads himself, digs out the loose ball, and then another post up for Nick, gets it back out to Brian Shaw, and good spacing by the Magic sets up this three-pointer by Jeff Turner, as the Magic were able to lengthen their lead by 7 at the end of the half.
And a look at the Miller Lite halftime stats. Indiana 17 of 35, 49% shooting. The Magic 21 of 35. An excellent shooting first half led by Shaquille O'Neal, 7 of 8 from the field in 16 minutes, 17 points. And from downtown, the Pacers 2 of 9. The Magic hitting on 6 of 11. 5 different players hitting the 6 three-pointers, and a quiet first half for Reggie Miller, who was looking to follow up on the signature game of Game 6, but to this point has not been able to get into the offense. Back in Orlando, we're just a moment away from the start of play in the third quarter. The Magic with a 7-point lead. Let's check in with Ahmad Rashad and Jim Gray. We'll start with Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Marv. I just talked to Brian Hill. He said he kept it real simple during the halftime, told him to keep up the good energy. Very happy with the way they were playing. He wanted them to try to control the rebounding and also try to get to the foul line as much as possible. The 2 people that he warned them about were obviously Rick Smits and Reggie Miller. Jim?
All right, thanks, Ahmad. Larry Brown was very disappointed with the way his team ended the first half. He does not want his team to get into a rat race here in the second half. Now he wants Reggie Miller to come off some screens, wants his team to set some more screens for Reggie and have him take better shots. He said that'll be accomplished if Orlando shoots a less high percentage in the second half and if Rick Smits can stay on the court. Marv?
Thank you, Jim. So the question is, will it be an NBA final between the Indiana Pacers and the Houston Rockets, or the Orlando Magic and the Houston Rockets? Third quarter getting underway as Derek McKee threw up a 3-point attempt, rebounded by Dale Davis. And Reggie Miller drawing the foul off the fake. Nick Anderson picks up his second.
His second first-team foul.
Look at the leading scorers in the first half. Miller and Dale Davis leading the way with 7 apiece, and Shaquille O'Neal with 17.
And they will continue to look to go inside to Rick Smits just to get him going, plus maybe pick up a couple of fouls on Shaquille O'Neal.
Jackson blocked. Rick Smits in the first half played only 9 minutes, 3 of 5 from the field. Anthony Hardaway playing with 3 fouls. Orlando turning it over.
I think the Pacers had to be happy that they were, Reggie Miller with the three-pointer as he struggled in that first half. But had to be happy with Rick Smits and Antonio Davis only coming out of that first half with 2 fouls, both of them on Smith.
Reggie Miller hitting a second from downtown. He's 2 of 6 from three-point range. Anderson foul. And hitting the deck. Helped up by Horace Grant. Dale Davis called for his first.
Well, Nick Anderson had nothing going in Game 6 from the perimeter and started really thinking about attacking the rim, which is a good play for him. Nick, an outstanding slasher and driver, and the crowd wanting a flagrant foul in that situation, but to no avail.
And Orlando continues to struggle big time at the line. They're 4 of 9 at the line. This is a club that finished last in free throw shooting during the regular season, just under 67%, leading to the question there are many who feel that for Orlando to win in a game like this, a 7th and decisive game, they have to win by the big score. If they come down the stretch where free throws will be significant, they will be in trouble. What's your feeling?
Well, that's why the Pacers are happy to have all those fouls left for their big man as Dale Davis gets the turnaround. But in talking with Shaq today, he said, I'm not worried about that. He has missed free throws before in clutch situations, in other situations. He's going to try to make up for it in other ways.
3-point lead for the Magic. Scott passed on the 3. Grant. Horace Grant. With his third field goal, he has 7 points. Orlando leads 55-50. Jackson and Miller at the guard. Smits, McKee, and Dale Davis up front. Smits now played by Grant. Nowhere to go. Lost it. And then regained and was tied up. Horace losing the goggles in the process momentarily.
Well, it's been hard for Horace Grant to find a lot of scoring opportunities. Here he hits his third off the nice third field goal and the nice penetration by Dennis Scott, drawing the defense in. And Horace Grant, a good jump shooter, normally likes to find that open shot at the top of the key.
And Orlando controlling the tip. They lead by 5. 2.5 gone by in the third quarter. Shaquille getting down deep. Again, try to feed it. Miller with the save. Nice play by Reggie Miller. Hardaway with the steal. Taking it from McKee and going the distance.
And the Pacers have to be very careful here. And off that steal by Reggie Miller, that was not a real aggressive run out. And then on a steal on the baseline, nobody getting back on defense. Their legs look dead.
Magic by 7. Another steal. This time Anderson. Jackson back. Anderson is hit by Jackson.
Well, Derek McKee backing his way in. Thought he had all kinds of time here. But Penny Hardaway on a nice little fake move. I think Derek McKee initially saw him. But then when he turned his head, Penny kept coming on the nice steal. Rick Smits, no way he can catch him. And then the other side of the defense, Reggie Miller, the last one back, nowhere near in transition defense. Nick Anderson playing the passing lane, and then the intentional hard foul by Mark Jackson to set Nick Anderson to the line.
And the problems continue at the foul line. Anderson is 1 of 3. And Orlando 5 of 11. That steal by Anderson is 2nd of the night. Orlando with 6 steals. Indiana with 7. The high numbers for early third quarter.
Well, both teams coming out to start this third quarter trying to keep their energy level very high at the defensive end with good pressure on the ball.
Dale Davis coming up short. Davis with the rebound. And a foul is called.
The foul number 54, Horace Grant.
Horace Grant collecting his third, so 3 apiece on Grant and Hardaway.
Dale Davis shooting 2.
Shaquille O'Neal has 2, as does Rick Smits. Dale Davis, 1 of 2 at the line.
Just 38% in this series. And what you have to be very careful of here, I think both teams aware of poor free throw shooting, that they will look to make a little crossing move in the lane to try to knock the ball loose, get an offensive rebound here. So you must check out defensively.
And Indiana has shot well at the line, 11 of 14 from the free throw line. 58-52, Orlando. O'Neal trying to take advantage of the steal.
Not a good double team on Nick Anderson. Derek McKee can play Nick Anderson in the low post. He is their best defensive player, but that enabled the ball to be swung around, Shaq to get it, and get a second opportunity because the defense was coming out of a rotation.
McKee, well, he had the good position, but came up short. Orlando has led by as many as 12. That was back in the first quarter. Indiana with a run to get back into it. And now an 8-point lead for the Magic. Shot clock at 6. Hardaway, throw it away. Miller right there. 2-on-1. McKee back to Miller.
Nice give and go between Miller and McKee as Nick Anderson had visions of hacking somebody there to make him go to the line. You don't necessarily like to put Reggie Miller, a 90% foul shooter, there, but you certainly don't want to give up a lay-in.
6-point Magic lead. Hardaway backing Jackson. Finding Grant. Yes. And it counts. The foul on Smith, his third.
Well, Indiana Pacers so aware of double teaming and helping, and when they turn their heads, because when double teams occur, you have to guard areas. And Rick Smits, too slow coming over, gave up excellent position to Horace Grant. And then a careless foul that time, although I don't think Rick Smits could get out of the way in that situation as he has his third.
Larry Brown very upset with that call. Had words for Hugh Evans, who was not looking in that direction.
Well, I think that Larry felt that Rick Smits just stood straight up, kept his arms up, and tried to avoid the contact. And Hugh Evans obviously saw it another way.
Orlando 63, Indiana 54. McKee had nowhere to go, but he was fouled. That was a very fine defensive sequence by the Magic. Foul on O'Neal, that's 3 on Shaquille.
And the reason it was the only shooters on the other side of the floor, the weak side, the right side, were the two Davises who are not going to take a lot of jump shots. So nothing happening here. Derek McKee puts his head down and drives to the basket, which has been a key element for the Pacers in this series. The times that they drive to the basket, draw fouls, and they had the big edge in free throw shooting, they have played well against Orlando.
McKee is 74% foul shooter during the regular season. Orlando 63, Indiana 55. 5 minutes gone by in the third. Scott had the lead pass battled away by Antonio Davis, and a timeout is taken. And some words now between Dennis Scott. Looked like Mark Jackson got involved. Dennis Scott had some strong words to say following Game 6 regarding Mark Jackson. And the taunting has continued here in Orlando. Well, a moment ago, Dennis Scott and Mark Jackson had some words, and you recall after Game 6, after the blowout by Indiana, Orlando players expressed their displeasure about what they felt was gloating on the part of several Orlando players, rather Indiana players. Dennis Scott citing Mark Jackson in particular. We talked about that with Dennis.
Well, it's something I guess Indiana's been doing all year long. They like to do a lot of talking, and we just like to do a lot of playing. It's funny, early in the series, a lot of guys, like Mark Jackson, his first 2 games, you couldn't get him to say a peep. You couldn't get him to do his little shake dance. Then they win a game, he makes a free throw, and all of a sudden, all his little dance, little antic comes out. So we thought it was a little strange. In the first 2 games, we just went out there and played basketball. And the games that we won, we didn't talk any trash. We didn't do any, extra backlash like they're doing. So it's kind of extra incentive for tonight's game.
Extra incentive, according to the Orlando Magic. Nick Anderson knocking down the 3, and it's a 66-55 lead for the Magic. Antonio Davis called for a traveling violation.
A lot of that talk started in earnest at the end of Game 3 with Mark Jackson going to the free throw down the stretch, Penny Hardaway talking to him, and then on Penny Hardaway's 3 free throws at the game as Dale Davis got his feet all tangled up for that walking violation.
6 minutes, 10 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Nice pass. Climbing grab. It's all clicking right here for the Magic. And they've opened up their biggest lead of the night, a margin of 13. Antonio Davis. Dale Davis, and a foul is called.
Well, Shaq has tried this pass a number of times in the series, and it's a difficult one for many to catch because he's throwing it from so high and so hard, as Shaq has been really into it with the crowd, wanting more noise if it's possible.
I don't think that is possible. Anderson called for the foul as 3rd. I also don't think this is what Larry Brown had in mind with both Antonio Davis and Dale Davis taking the kind of shots that we've seen. Antonio Davis got stripped. 2-on-1, Hardaway for O'Neal. 70-55, Orlando. They try to trap Miller. And Indiana calls for time. 20-second timeout.
You're right, Mark. Both Antonio Davis, Dale Davis are the players that are winding up with these shots. And some of that has to do with the Orlando defense. They are very much aware of trying to make sure Reggie Miller doesn't get any opportunity. Hardaway with the quick hands on the strip gets Shaq, and Mark Jackson didn't even think about trying to foul Shaq. It was way too late, and somebody is going to get seriously injured with all of this chest thumping here. I don't think it's going to be Shaq, however.
A 10-1 run by the Magic. They have hit 7 of 8 from the field in the 3rd quarter. They are now shooting 65% for the game.
And Larry Brown getting Rick Smits back into this ball game. He needs some offense, at least needs the offense to go through Smits, that if he can't score, maybe Reggie Miller can either get a screen from him or a pass out of a double team, because right now Miller has been blanketed.
15-point lead for the Orlando Magic. We come up on 5 minutes left in the 3rd. Jackson lost it. One of those situations, Mark losing his feet, going to the air, and had nowhere to go with the basketball.
Well, the play was for Miller coming off a Smith screen, but Rick never sent one.
Scott for 3, yes. Orlando adding to this big lead, and now a full timeout taken by the Pacers.
The 6'8" Penny Hardaway having no trouble throwing this pass cross court to the open Dennis Scott, as Byron Scott got caught in transition defense in the lane, as Dennis Scott feeling it, and some early celebrating going on as Mark Jackson starting to show some frustration on his part, has to call the timeout, as the Magic are really caught up in it now, but plenty of time left in this game with 4:44 to go in the 3rd.
Orlando red hot in the 3rd. They've come out and hit 8 of 9 from the field. An 18-point lead for the Magic. Jackson using the pick. Smith's guarded by Grant. Now Turner over on the double team. Turner came on for O'Neal. Punched out of the hands of Dale Davis. Good play by Brian Shaw to knock it aside.
Well, Brian, a very good rebounder at both ends, and they're going to need him right now with Shaq on the bench. Horace Grant and Jeff Turner in there to try to battle Dale Davis and Rick Smith.
Anderson played by McKee. Jackson fires for three. Mark Jackson hitting his second from downtown.
And that quiets the crowd ever so slightly. It was a very costly third foul for Rick Smith when he went to the bench. The Magic went on to an 11-1 run to take control of this game at this point.
Scott backing Miller. Shot clock at 5. Scott. Oh! And rebounded by Dale Davis. Jackson blocked. Shaw got a piece of it. Here's Smits. Rick Smits backing up to hit the jump shot. And the Magic lead is now 13. So the Indiana Pacers now down by 13 with 3:20 left in the third.
Well, since Rick Smits has come back and Shaq has gone to the bench, the Pacers have gone on a 5-0 run on this three-point shot by Mark Jackson, starting to give the Pacers a little bit of life. And then on this fast break opportunity, bad spacing on it. Smits ran the middle of the floor, which he should do. Jackson getting in all kinds of trouble, but able to secure the ball. And Rick Smits has that knack of stepping out to that little open 15-foot area.
5 unanswered points by the Pacers to chip in to that 18-point lead. So the Magic up now 73-60.
Well, Shaq gets in these little bit of fatigue problems early in the first quarter after about 6-7 minutes. Same thing in the third quarter. And when the Magic went on to that 18-point lead, I think Brian Hill thought it was a good opportunity to just rest Shaq, but he did have the Pacers reeling in that time, and there might be some question why he maybe didn't go for the knockout punch, but he knows Shaq's fatigue situation. He just wanted to give him a little breather, as Penny Hardaway also getting a little bit of a breather.
Hardaway and O'Neal each have 3 fouls. Smits on the floor with 3.
Byron Scott, number 3, Ewan Workman.
Now let's check in with Jim Gray, who has been hovering around the Indiana Pacer bench. Jim?
All right, Marv, Larry Brown just told his team this game is an awful long way from over. Let's take it one trip at a time. Let's get strong defensively. He said we've come back from much worse than this throughout the season. Marv?
All right, Jim, we come up on 3 minutes left in the third. Strong move by Anderson, and Grant had it knocked away. Anderson came up with the ball and was fouled. Nick Anderson. Hearing it from the crowd for the hustle.
Well, I think everybody in the building and the Magic bench as well thought on the Anderson drive here that there was some contact by Rick Smits. And of course there was, as the officials letting things go right now. And then finally the hard hack by Workman on Anderson.
Grant around Smits, who stepped away. 75-60, Orlando.
A nifty move in there by Horace Grant, able to avoid the shot block attempt by Smith, and Horace Grant out-quicking Rick.
Now Smits to the basket. Smits on the save. Workman with the open shot for 3. Rebound, Dale Davis.
His 10th and 6th offensive rebound, as he is really working hard on the glass.
There's Byron Scott for 3. Rebounded by Shaw. 2 minutes remaining in the third. Orlando with the ball and a 15-point lead. Anna Scott checking over with Coach Brian Hill, working the sideline. Shot clock at 3. Here's Turner for 3. Just did beat the 24. Reggie Miller.
And if the Pacers are going to close the gap, they are going to have to find ways to get that man open.
Well, Reggie not able to do it to this point. He's taken 10 shots. He's hit 5. And it could come down to the fourth quarter. And the question, can Reggie Miller get into one of his hot streaks? Holding foul called on the Pacers.
His third penalty situation.
Well, Horace Grant catching the ball on the baseline as Rick Smits had his head turned and coming over thinking that he had Grant under control, but Horace showing a nice move there with the footwork and the dribble to elude Rick Smits and get that shot in. Now, Reggie Miller can work some one-on-one, can get his shot on occasion. It's not when he is at his best. He's at his best when the Pacers are playing defense, getting in transition, getting fast breaks, maybe hitting him as a trailer for three-point shots, getting offensive rebounds, throwing out to him for three-point shots. But when they are in the half court, they have to set good screens for Reggie Miller to get him going.
Pacers are over the foul limit. Shaw connecting on 1 of 2. And the Magic up 76-60. We approach 1 minute left. Third quarter. And Davis hit by Bowie. Once again, Orlando going with the trap in the backcourt. They have surprised Indiana going with the pressure in the early going, and it led to that good spurt in the first quarter.
It was very effective. They have gotten away from that. That was just a delay kind of trap, but very dangerous because that's how Reggie Miller could get open. He was open on the weak side of the floor in the right corner, but the pass in the middle to Antonio Davis, he did not make that turn to the diagonal pass side and find Reggie Miller.
Dale Davis, 4 of 5 at the line. Orlando by 15. They've led by as many as 18. Grant beating it. Orlando 78. Indiana 61. And we're watching a pumped-up Orlando Magic ball club. This is the case Friday night in Indiana where the Pacers were fired up right from the start. Foul is called. Jeff Turner picks it up.
Well, the Magic rarely run a set play for Horace Grant. This is just their power set where they're trying to post up a big man, but you have to call it a set play as he got terrific position on Antonio Davis. As Horace Grant, who has been somewhat quiet statistically, at least compared to the way he was in the Chicago series, is really feeling it. He feels this is why he was brought to this team, to come up big in these big playoff games. And I guess they don't get any bigger than Game 7s.
And Horace with 16 points on 7 of 8 from the field. 8 rebounds. Antonio Davis missing on both. 35 seconds left in the third. Orlando with a 17-point lead.
Ball.
Deflected out.
10 seconds.
Last touch by Indiana. Orlando with 10 on the shot clock. It has been a terrific shooting game for the Magic. 62% from the field for Orlando. Shot clock down to 4. Scott, yes. 8 points for Dennis Scott. Biggest lead of the night. A 19-point margin. Seconds of the third, and Byron Scott fouled by Dennis Scott.
Well, the Magic have made no bones about it. They are not going to let Reggie Miller beat them on the weak side of the floor, opposite side from where Byron Scott was working. Anthony Bowie was face guarding Reggie Miller. Was not even looking to help out anybody else, just making sure or trying to make sure that Miller does not touch the ball.
Here's Dwayne Farrell coming on for Reggie Miller. 6.5 seconds to go in the third quarter.
So when Shaq went out for that breather, the Magic were up by 18. And that's exactly where they are right now. So Brian Hill has to be happy about that.
Oh, this an excellent position. The big lead, and you have a well-rested Shaquille O'Neal set to return in the fourth quarter. Scott, can he get it off? Found Shaw, rejected by Dale Davis.
The score at the end of the third.
So the Magic, 11 of 17 from the field in the third. Horace Grant with 16 points on 7 of 8 shooting. We'll be back in Orlando after this from your local station. Well, that is tennis star Pete Sampras. Pete upset in the first round of the French Open, but I'm certain delighted to be with us here as an honorary cameraman, Matt. Pete living in nearby Tampa, dropping by to lend a hand as this fourth quarter gets underway.
Well, Pete doesn't miss too many cuts, as it were. He's usually getting to the quarters, the semis, or the finals. Another guy missed a cut this week, stopped by. Paul Azinger from nearby Bradenton, who missed the cut this week, is here as well.
The largest deficit after 3 quarters overcome to win a game, 18 points. The Suns beat the Rockets, coming from 18 back on May 11th. Last season, Farrell called on the foul. As this fourth quarter gets started, it is a 17-point lead for the Orlando Magic, and Shaquille O'Neal back on the floor, and that a well-rested Shaquille O'Neal.
And Smits was in and out of the game a couple of times in that third quarter, as well as Larry Brown trying to make sure he has enough fouls for Rick Smits and have him well-rested for the stretch run.
Shaquille goes right to it. He has 23. He's 10 of 12 from the field. Orlando by 19. And off the cut, a foul, a block charge to Bowie.
The foul number 14, Anthony Bowie.
Anthony Bowie called for his third. Anthony Bowie has done an outstanding defensive job.
As he always does, works very hard, particularly on the baseline, playing people without the ball, fighting over and through screens.
Good hustle by Dale Davis to keep it alive, but Byron Scott has been off.
And the Pacers are just not getting good shots. You have to give a large part of the credit to the Magic defense. It has been fierce. It has been aggressive. But the Pacers not moving the ball and not moving their bodies very well to counteract it.
Hardaway had it knocked away. Here's Scott putting the move on Turner. Offensive foul.
Well, Jeff Turner is not going to block a lot of shots, but he will do this for you. Step up and take the charge. Just backed up a little bit to get into the path of the driving Byron Scott.
Hardaway using the pick. Sets up Turner for three. Bowie with the rebound. Here's the double on O'Neal. Magic able to work it around. Scott fired the three, and a foul called. Reggie Miller sitting it out at the start of this fourth quarter.
This is what Anthony Bowie has been doing with Reggie Miller. Not even concerned about where the basketball is, although he has a pretty good idea. The play is going to the other side of the floor. AB has his back totally turned to the play, making sure he knows exactly where the dangerous scorer Reggie Miller is at all times.
Minute and a half gone by in the fourth quarter, and a block called on Turner.
Well, a good run out that time by the Pacers as Dale Davis ran the floor hard, went to the front of the rim. Reggie Miller, having gotten a little bit of a rest, unable to get anything going or much going offensively, will be ready to check back in.
And Matt, the pattern has been with Reggie Miller, will have one of his big ball games, one of those signature games, and then be quiet. The next game, we saw that in the Knicks series after he was able to lead the Pacers in that unbelievable ending in game 1, then very quiet in game 2. He had the sensational game on Friday night in Indiana, quiet to this point, and there have been instances earlier in the playoffs. Can he put together 2 brilliant performances?
Oh, Marv, it's a team thing. It's not all on Reggie Miller. They have to do it with their defense. And when they get out and run, that's when Reggie gets the juices going. That's when he gets some good scoring opportunities. And then the half-court offense will come. But the Pacers haven't done enough good things defensively to get out and go. And consequently, Reggie is suffering.
82-65, Orlando. We are early in the 4th. Turner passing on the 3. Now Bowie for 3. And a foul is called. It is a loose ball foul, which to be on the indication originally was Turner, but now looks to be on Indiana. We still await the call. Apparently a discussion between Mike Mathis and Hugh Evans, and we'll be right back.
Miller Genuine Draft presents Genuine Moments.
Tonight's topic, playoff Game 7s, and there have been 2 7th games in this year's playoffs. Mario Elie dramatic three-point shot helping Houston defeat the Suns in Phoenix in the West semifinals. And Game 7 of the East semis at Madison Square Garden with Patrick Ewing missing on the finger roll in the final seconds. And the Pacers advance to the conference finals. Before this season, the last time that a team won a Game 7 on the road, back in 1982, Julius Erving helping lead the Sixers over the Celtics in Boston. In recognition of this moment, Miller Genuine Draft will donate $1,000 to the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. That last foul, as we were headed to the timeout, called on Jeff Turner. Some confusion on the call, but it was Turner. And so it is Indiana ball with 9:55 remaining in the 4th quarter. An 82-65 lead for the Magic. Anthony Bowie with the rebound. 7th and final game. The winner advancing to the NBA Finals to face the defending champion, Houston Rockets.
And that was not even an attempt to get the ball to Smits or Miller for an offensive play.
Nice play by Smits on the reject. Pharrell. Oh. Here's Dale Davis. And the foul. The basket counts and the foul.
Well, Shaq is not going to get too many jump hooks blocked unless when he's shooting them on the way down. A mishandle here. Not a clean play between Miller and Pharrell, but a good job by Dale Davis. And I said at the beginning of the game, when Dale Davis makes a good contribution scoring and rebounding, which he's done in this game with 14 points and 13 rebounds, generally the Pacers are in good shape. And he's doing this all with a very sore shoulder. Most players wouldn't even be playing. But when your whole team is shooting 40%, I don't think it's going to matter what Dale Davis does.
Not a good sign when Dale Davis is the leading scorer on the team. Indiana missed its last 7 shot. Dennis Scott has had a very strong game. For Dennis, his 3rd from downtown. He has 11 points. Orlando 85, Indiana 68. Here's McKee. And Hardaway with the rebound.
Well, once again, no screen on the weak side for Reggie Miller. The face guarding of Anthony Bowie keeping from Miller from getting involved.
Shot clock at 5. O'Neal. It's a 3-on-2. The trailer, Dale Davis, not able to hit. Rebounded by Davis, and he's fouled.
And it really gives you an idea of what kind of team player Reggie Miller is there. He knows his team is behind by 17, and they need his scoring to get back, but he made the right basketball play here. Maybe Mark Jackson gave the ball a little bit too early, but Reggie leaves for the trailing Dale Davis, who you would expect to get fouled in that situation, but that's the right basketball play in any situation.
Dale Davis, 5 of 7 from the line. 15 points, 14 rebounds for Davis, 9 of the rebounds off the offensive boards.
And the sticky defensive play of Anthony Bowie on Reggie Miller has kept Nick Anderson on the bench for Orlando, but I'm sure he's happy with the way AB is playing. Anthony Bowie earned some playing time by playing so hard and well in garbage time in Game 6.
And actually hit 4 of 4 from the field to help Orlando in a brief run to cut into that huge lead. And then Indiana able to put it away. Here's Shaquille. It will count. That's the outside official, Jess Kersey, with the call. It's a goaltend plus the foul.
Well, Antonio Davis battling as hard as he can. The hard turn in by Shaq. And Dale Davis coming over and clearly getting it on the way down.
His first 14 foul. For the Magic, number 25, Nick Anderson.
Now Nick Anderson back on the floor. Shaquille looking to complete the three-point play. Well, Orlando 8 of 16 at the foul line. As it turns out to this point, it has not mattered with the 19-point lead. Now Anderson guarding Miller. Miller got the step and then met by the combination of Anderson and Scott and rejected. Seven and a half remaining in the fourth. Foul is called as O'Neal with the spin move was called for the offensive foul.
Well, Nick Anderson trying to pick it up now as he comes in, coming off the screen of Rick Smits. And then Nick, who should be trying to force him over that pick and roll situation, opens up one of the few pieces of daylight for Reggie Miller. Could get the job done.
That was number 4 on Shaquille. Smits blocked. And last touch. Let's see, Hugh Evans conferring with Jess Kersey. Another discussion. And the question is, who knocked it out of bounds?
Well, Shaq making a good defensive play on Rick Smits, getting all ball as both Horace Grant and Antonio Davis. Horace Grant has a pretty good idea of who he thinks it was off. And to get the feeling we are going to have a jump ball.
Yes, the officials disagree, so they will jump it up. Rick Smits has been quiet offensively. 4 of 10 for the field, 8 points.
Haywood Workman is back into this ball game to try to put backcourt pressure on Penny Hardaway to try to extend the defense, get in the passing lanes, get some steals, get some deflection, force some tough shots. It's the only chance the Pacers have of getting back into this game.
Orlando shooting 57% for the night. Hardaway for 3. Yes. It has been all Orlando. They now lead 90-68 and a timeout called by the Pacers.
This is not the kind of aggressive defense I was talking about. High screen for Penny Hardaway coming off, but Haywood Workman going to go underneath, and you can't leave a guy who's shooting 46% from beyond the arc this wide open at this juncture in the game, and leads to Penny's reaction as the Magic are starting to think about the Houston Rockets.
Indiana only 1 of 9 from the field. Struggling in the fourth quarter. They are trailing 90-68, 6:45 remaining. Smits setting up against O'Neal. Hardaway over to double to break it up.
Well, that's a tough way to get the ball into Rick Smits, just standing stationary. Shaq able to lean on him, push him out. People backing off a non-shooter Haywood Workman. You have to get some movement underneath, a little screen across, a little action, get Smits moving around a little bit to make it more difficult.
I believe there is a discussion as to how much time remaining on the 24-second clock. The clock, as the ball was knocked out of bounds, showing 24, and they are now changing it.
It should be even lower than that. That play took so long to get into, as Haywood Workman had the ball deep in the left corner, deflected by Penny Hardaway and Smits, and it should be about 7 or 8 seconds.
Well, they placed 11 on the shot clock. Jackson back on the floor for Workman with the inbounds pass. Smits over Grant. It's a goaltend. Shaquille O'Neal lunging for that shot. Called on the goaltend.
Well, I don't know if that was a permanent switch right now with Horace Grant guarding Smits and maybe giving Shaq a little bit of a breather from guarding the big man, but also Shaq nursing 4 personal fouls, playing off the ball. But Shaq coming over to help out Horace, timing it and catching that one on the way down.
It has been a turnaround game for the Orlando Magic, sparked by the likes of Horace Grant, who had been quiet offensively, 7 of 8 though here tonight, with 16 points, 9 rebounds. Penny Hardaway also on the quiet side the last couple of games, but coming back with a 6 for 8 from the field, and Shaquille O'Neal with a magnificent performance, 25 points on 11 of 15 shooting. Here's the double on O'Neal, gets it back out for Anderson, finds Scott for 3. That is his 4th from downtown. Dennis Scott can be added to the list of Magic heroes tonight. He has 14 points. Jackson for 3. Shaquille one-hands the rebound. Hardaway for Scott from downtown. Rebounded by Antonio Davis.
Well, I think the Magic are feeling a little full of themselves right there. That shot was there, and it was open, and really would have put maybe the final dagger in, but I'm sure Brian Hill would have rather seen a little time go off the clock.
Strong move by Jackson. 93-72, Orlando by 21. The Orlando Magic responding so well here tonight in their first ever 7th game of a playoff series. Shaquille O'Neal feeling the contact. Looked like he palmed the ball with that move, but foul's called. Foul on McKee, his 3rd. 11 of 15 from the field. How does that compare with some of the great performances in playoff competition in 7th games? Well, it's right up there. Tom Kozolko, remember Tom? That was a blowout, I believe, with the Bullets involved back in 74. Now, Tom is watching. I'm laughing at him. But it was I believe it was a blowout situation. Wilt Chamberlain had a 12 for 15. And Shaq, 11 of 15. Anderson for 3. Smits with the rebound. Miller passed on the full crowd, wanted to travel.
And that's the way it's gone for Reggie. Normally he would pull up for a 3 in that situation. And let's face it, the Pacers need a lot of 3s, but Reggie got away maybe with a little shuffle of the feet to go to the hole.
Scott, yes. That is his 5th from downtown, leading to an Indiana timeout. Well, the celebration here in Orlando continues with 4:31 remaining. Reggie Miller, 5 of 12, only 12 points. Coming in, he was leading the series in scoring, averaging better than 28 per game.
And really only four rebounds, not bad for Reggie in this game, but a big far cry from what he is used to. And no assist for Reggie Miller. And certainly not enough free throws, and that means they have not gotten the ball into his hands enough.
Well, as we have been touching on it right throughout the telecast, Orlando has done a sensational job defensively to keep it away from Miller. In particular, Anthony Bowie, who came off the bench to do the job from a defensive point of view. 2-on-1. Hardaway from Anderson. It has now taken on the look of a coronation with 4 minutes remaining. The Orlando Magic appear to be headed to the NBA Finals to face the Houston Rockets.
And this fast break all started with the Magic defense, which has been superb in this Game 7. And the give and go between Penny Hardaway and Nick Anderson. And Horace Grant thinking to himself, this is why I came to Orlando.
That was a rare outside shot attempt by Miller and a reaching foul on Hardaway. That is his fourth. Look at the stat line on Anthony Hardaway, 7 of 9, 16 points, finding the touch once again. Haywood Workman will go to the foul line. Rick Smits, Mark Jackson setting it out now with 3:53 to go in the fourth quarter.
For the Pacers, number 4,
Byron Scott. And Reggie Miller will depart. Reggie only 2 for his last 8.
And this is certainly not what Reggie Miller had in mind. He lives for these type of situations. He has always said he'd prefer a hostile arena. He'd prefer to do it on the road. Well, he got the hostile arena, didn't get the job done.
Shot clock at 7. Now Orlando trying to take some time off the clock, not rushing it. Workman with the save. Wells pass broken up by Anderson. A host of deflections by the Magic.
A very tentative half-court offensive night for the Pacers. This was never smooth, never sharp. They lived off the running game in Game 6, and it carried them through to a big 27-point win. I don't know if they thought they'd get the same thing in Game 7. They never came close.
Here's Anderson for 3. Byron Scott. And a holding foul call with 2:44 remaining in this fourth quarter.
You know, Marvin, may have been very important for that Magic team at the end of Game 6 after getting obliterated to keep their composure and pull together, even though they did it out on the basketball floor. They could have done that anywhere. They could have done that back in the locker room, in the hallway, but it was a sign, I think, to everybody around that said, hey, we can take some lumps and we can get beat here and there, but we're going to hang together as a team, and we will bounce back. And they were able to turn around in about 48 hours and get it done.
Well, the statement made by Dennis Scott and Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway all pointing at the scoreboard, saying, take a look at the score and don't forget it, referring to the blowout at the hands of the Pacers on Friday night. They wanted to keep it in their mind to try and motivate themselves for tonight.
Well, the first 5 games of this series, none of them decided by more than 5 points. Didn't look like any one of them could have gone down to either team. It was like who was going to make a shot at the end of the game, but you always had the feeling there's got to be a blowout somewhere in here. Well, we saw it in Game 6 and now Game 7.
Down on Antonio Davis. So Hardaway to the line for the first time. No consolation for the Indiana Pacers, who are certainly feeling it with the loss here tonight as they did last year when they lost to the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But it's been quite a run by the Pacers, who have done it in very dramatic style right throughout the playoffs. A club that won 52 games, winning the Central Division, finishing 3rd overall in the East, sweeping by Atlanta in the first round and beating the Knicks in 7 in the semifinals and going to 7 here against the Orlando Magic, a team that is headed to the NBA Finals. Keep in mind, no team since the '77 Portland Trailblazers won an NBA title without previously winning a playoff game in its history. Dennis Scott continues the assault. And Orlando in a situation where, coming into this season, they have not won a playoff game, and they are headed now to the final steps. Sam Mitchell knocks it down with 1:40 to go. 101-77 to the Magic.
When you think about the Indiana Pacers, Mark, it was not an easy 52 wins for them. Mike Jackson coming aboard took him a while to get acclimated and become a factor for this team, and never really got going until the end of the year and in these playoffs. And they missed Antonio Davis for 38 games on 3 separate occasions. A dislocated shoulder for Dale Davis. He missed 8 games during the regular season. So quite a job done by Larry Brown, his coaching staff, and the Indiana Pacers, who fought hard and long to get to this 7th game. A difficult finish for them, but they can still walk out of this building, certainly hold their heads high.
Now Shaquille 3 of 8 at the line.
On talking with Shaq today, he did not, and he was asked about what if it comes down to a close game and it comes down to free throw shooting. I thought we might get the look that we get in that commercial, but Shaq put a little smile on his face. He said, "I'm not worried at all. I don't care about foul shooting." He must have known somewhere in the back of his mind he was going to do all those other things.
Well, sure, no concern as long as it is a blowout.
Yeah.
Here's Mitchell. We're approaching a minute remaining. And you can see the smile on the face of Shaquille O'Neal. Not bad. 3rd year of the NBA, and he is headed to the NBA Finals. And O'Neal fouled by Antonio Davis. Well, to look at the head-to-head matchup this season between Akeem Olajuwon and Shaquille O'Neal, the numbers even. Gill shooting 61% as Orlando took both games from Houston.
A blowout here in Orlando, 11-point win down in Houston. I'm sure throughout that series, from time to time, we will see those two men go at it one-on-one, but both of them so effective offensively in different ways that you cannot stop a Shaquille O'Neal without double-teaming him. You cannot stop Akeem without doubling. As Dennis Scott getting the congratulations from his coaching staff and teammates after a terrific performance.
We are down to 45 seconds. 101-77. Orlando able to break it open in the 3rd quarter with the hot shooting. They got off to the quick start. Indiana with a run to get back into it. The Magic emptying the bench. And Brooks Thompson fires for 3. Everyone getting into the act.
Why didn't Brooks shoot the layup? I think he wanted to throw it out to himself for 3.
And a foul with 21 seconds to go. It's on Grant. Anthony Avett with a hug for Horace Grant. And Horace hearing it from the crowd. Shaquille O'Neal with 25 points, 11 of 15 shooting, 16 points, 9 rebounds for Horace Grant on 7 of 9 from the floor.
And Horace set the tone in this one. He started the ballgame gambling off Dale Davis with the pressure on the defense. And Tree Rollins, Dennis Scott, foul, stop the clock. so we can get Shaq and Horace to get their due from the fans here, who were, again, the major sixth man here, as they were loud, they were enthusiastic, as were the Pacer fans. Both crowds, big factors in this series.
And it has been a home court series in contrast to what we saw between Houston and San Antonio. We're down to the final seconds. Anthony Avon for three. Thompson looking for the shot, had it knocked away and took a pretty good hit. Did not appreciate that hit from Sam Mitchell.
And right away, Brooks, the rookie, being grabbed by his teammates. And Sam Mitchell making sure he tried to block that shot, but also not appreciating Brooks Thompson trying to pour it on a little bit as Brian Shaw being picked up. I'm sorry, Brian Hill being picked up by Shaquille O'Neal.
A different scene at the other end of the arena. The Magic 105 and the Pacers 81. So game one between the Houston Rockets and the Orlando Magic Wednesday night here in Orlando. The Orlando Magic headed to the NBA title. Well, once again, the Orlando Magic huddling up, but this time I would think the content of the discussion in contrast to what took place in Indiana on Friday.
I'm sure, Marvin, they will get together over the next day or so with more huddles, but I think right now showing their appreciation for one another as to all the hard work that they put in way back in October and actually during the summer when so much of the strength and conditioning work is done. But there is a lot of work to be done for this Orlando Magic team as the Houston Rockets sitting down in Galveston, Texas, preparing for the Orlando Magic. A lot of basketball left to be played over the next couple of weeks.
And the Orlando Magic in their 6th year of existence, making it to the NBA Finals.
Thank you very much for joining us.
But in the midst of the wild celebration, our Ahmad Rashad is with Shaquille O'Neal and several others. Let's go to Ahmad.
All right, thanks, Marv. Shaq, you guys played hard all season long. The game, this home court advantage today, it paid off for you.
We came out, the fans were great. We just, slept on the loss the other day. We met yesterday. The guys had dinner, and we said, we're going to come out, play hard, try to win.
Benny, an excellent team effort today, especially defensively.
Well, we had to come out defensively because of what happened the other day. They scored a lot of easy buckets, and what we wanted to do was just come out and just force the tempo and then play a tough defense.
Everybody talking about what you guys couldn't do. You're here. You're on your way to the NBA Finals.
We're on our way, Mike. Like I told you before, we just kept taking one game at a time and believing in ourselves. And that old saying, payback if you know what.
Now, Shaq,
Marv, I gotta go get Marv.
Shaq, you told me when I talked to you before the game that the one guy that you didn't have to worry about being ready to play today would be you.
We lost pretty bad the other day. I just wanted to, come in tonight and give it all I got, and we did that. Penny played great. Nick played excellent defense on Reggie Miller, and we won, and we're on our way.
All right, Penny, the huddle that you guys had the other night, did that have an effect on the way you played today?
I think so. I think everybody knew what Indiana had did. They came out and played a great game and really beat us real bad, so we wanted to come back and revenge with a lot of revenge, and really we just want to thank God. All of that is over with now. We're in the finals. Thank God. Thank you.
All right, Marv, back over to you.
All right, about the Orlando Magic end up shooting 54% for the series. They were 57% today. Shaquille O'Neal, 25 points, 11 rebounds. Dennis Scott, 19 points, 5 of 7 from downtown. Penny Hardaway, 17 points, 7 of 9 from the field. And the veteran on this club, Horace Grant, chipping in with 16 points and 9 rebounds. It's another trip to the finals for the one-time member of the Chicago Bulls. How does this situation compare to what took place in Chicago?
Well, I'd like to thank God for giving us the ability to get here. But to compare the two, in Chicago, we were a veteran team. But, you know, this is a little bit swinging because we have to work so hard. We're a very young basketball team, but we overcame the inexperience.
With the Chicago Bulls winning 3 straight championships, and a fellow by the name of Scottie Pippen, who was a teammate, I know a close friend of yours, on hand here tonight. What did that mean to you to see Scottie watch you supply the final piece? That was the question when the deal was made.
It means a lot to me. You know, Scottie and I, we've been friends for a long time. And my brother came here the first 2 games, and Scottie said he would come here to support me for the last game.
Horace, what was it about the defense at the start of the game? You look like the old Chicago Bull out at midcourt creating a lot of havoc. How did that happen?
Well, you know, Coach Hill told me just go and play. You know, he said pick your moments when you want to go and trap on defense. And I felt like I was in Chicago a little bit out there scrambling, forcing turnovers.
Horace, congratulations.
Thanks a lot, guys.
To the finals once again.
Thank you very much.
One of the keys to the victory tonight for the Orlando Magic. We'll have more reaction from Orlando. It will be Orlando and Houston in the NBA final. We'll be back in Orlando in a moment.